And he would build his wife a new house once they started having kids, but at first he lived with his mother-in-law. And even when he built his wife a new house, it was pretty close to where her mother was. And if she got tired of him, she'd kick him out, stick his stuff outside, and either had to go back to his mama or find a new wife. Because everything stayed with her. The kids, the house, everything but his own clothes, weapons, and tools stayed there. So these women had a lot of say. Men, we helped clear the fields for planting, we helped harvest, but only when the women told us. And men went to war and we hunted. And that meant that we left the village. And so guess who ran things when we were outside the village? Old men and the women telling them what to do. It was that simple. So these women were always important, and I would argue that they still are. What's interesting is that when we watch these movies today, everybody likes those, what are they called, gang movies, gangland movies or whatever. You imagine like the mafia bosses, they're all sitting around this table, they're all saying, "You got a problem with one of my guys, you come and you talk to me. You come into my neighborhood, you come and you talk to me." That's how those old women were. "You got a problem with one of my grandkids, you come and talk to me." Now, if somebody was in danger and there was an immediate problem, everybody corrected each other's kids. But once they were adults, it got a little bit more dicey. All the true communication took place behind people's backs. But everybody knew that. Nobody would go to their best friend and say, "Oh, did you see what Darlene was doing? She's the most awful, despicable person, just the worst person to walk the earth. I can't, oh my gosh, somebody should put her out of her misery." And then they're shocked when she hears about it. A long time ago, we knew as soon as we said something about anybody, it was going to get back to them. That was the whole purpose. So we didn't say terrible things about each other and not expect it to get back to them. So that's changed some. Okay, the ostracism thing, I don't think it was on purpose. It's just if you see somebody doing something that really bothers you and is really rubbing you the wrong way, and you can't do anything about it, you just ignore the person. You know, it's the whole thing, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. It's okay, I'm not watching. I can't stop it. I'm just going to pretend like they're not doing it. And if everybody does that, then that person starts to feel ostracized. And they start to go, "Why isn't anybody talking to me? Am I doing something wrong? Maybe I should listen to the gossip." So I don't think it was on purpose necessarily. Witchcraft thing, big no-no. There's no justification here. A long time ago, they say it was all for good. All that nobility was for good. Everything. It was for good. Sometimes it was used for hunting. They say a long time ago, Igutagason, there were these two brothers. And one of them was very strong, very athletic, very handsome and good-looking fella, and he was a great hunter. When he went out to the woods to bring back deer, he not only brought back enough for his family, he brought back enough for his whole entire community, and everybody loved him for it. His other brother, his twin, was weakly, and he'd been sickly all his life, and he was always in poor health, and he could just kind of barely get around. He was a nice guy, though. He was a good listener. He had suffered a lot, so a lot of people came to him with their problems, and he listened, and he was a good counselor. He made people feel better, and he had a lot of wisdom. But people still loved his brother. People, they liked the athletes. They liked the hunters. And there was a little part of that weakly brother that felt a little bit jealous. And he was out wandering in the woods one day, and he was praying and asking God, "There's got to be something I want to be a hunter. I want to be stronger. I need something. I'm just not happy with my life." And a thunderstorm started to come in, and it got louder and louder, and the wind started to blow, and the thunder started to boom, and lightning was striking all around him. And he got real close to this tree. He thought he would hide under the shelter of this big oak tree. And it sounded like these words were being called out in the voice of the thunder. And all of a sudden, boom! Lightning struck that big oak tree, and it knocked him down. And he was laying on the ground, and his ears were ringing, and those words were just louder and louder in his ears. And when he looked up at that oak tree that was struck by lightning, there were these splinters sticking out all down the east side of that oak tree. So he walked over there to those splinters, and he grabbed a hold of them, and he held them in his left hand. And he started saying those words into those splinters. And about that time, the storm had spooked a bunch of deer through the forest. They started to run past him. And he said those words, he touched that splinter, and he pointed at that deer, and that splinter went shoot right into that deer's heart and killed it. He said, aha, I can hunt. Now I have a way to hunt. His brother had made him a bow and some arrows, but he was always too weak to pull it. He couldn't hunt with it, he could barely lift it. But he started taking that bow out in the woods with him. And he would go out in the woods and he'd have those lightning struck splinters and he would say those words. And he would shoot those deer. And he would have to cut up that deer into pieces just to drag it back home. And he started saying, I can hunt too. And people said, he can hunt. And he brought home enough food, not just for him and his family, but for the whole community. And the people were impressed. But they noticed he didn't get any bigger. He didn't get any stronger. He had a lot of difficulty getting those deer out of the woods. How on earth was he able to shoot that bow? And they started to whisper, and they started to wonder, and they started to be a little bit afraid of him. Thought, he's using that no-walk team. He's not hunting with that bow. He's hunting with that medicine. Which isn't really bad, but they were a little nervous. He said, well, he's not being completely honest with us. And that brother's jealousy got stronger and stronger because they loved his brother. Cherokees love athletes. They love people that can do things with their hands. And they knew his brother was bringing in those deer by hunting. And even though he could bring in more deer than his brother, they considered his brother a better hunter. He got more and more jealous. And one day, he got mad in front of town and everybody. He said, I'm the best hunter in this village. I'm better than my brother. I'm better than everybody else. And his brother goes, okay, you're a better hunter than me. He goes, no, I don't want you to say that. I want everybody to know it. We're going to have a contest right now. We'll go out in the woods, and the first one to come back with the deer, they'll be the best hunter, and everybody here is going to know it. And they all shook their heads and said, okay, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. His brother said, that's fine, I don't care. We'll go out and we'll hunt. So they both went out in the woods, and then the sickly fellow, the one that knew the medicine, he had it ready in his hand. He said the words. He had already spotted a deer. He touched the splinter, and he was getting ready to point at the deer. But out of the corner of his eye, he saw his brother. He had already pulled his bow back. Without thinking, pointed at his brother. Right into his heart. They say that was the first time it was ever used for anything bad. But originally it was just don't think, to help yourself. Nothing more. Not to get vengeance, not to even the score, not to make your life better than anybody else's. To help yourself and to help everybody else. That's its purpose. Cherokees, they would talk about diukta. Diukta. Now the word for boat in Cherokee is jiyu. Jiyu-go-ta. Jiukta means straight, because those boats went straight up and down the river, one direction or the other. They were just dugout canoes. Jiyu, they went straight. Jiyukta is the direction they went, straight. Diyukta, it means the way or the truth. It means honesty, it means integrity. Justice. Diyukta. And they say that's the way that we're supposed to live. They call it a white path. White in Cherokee is unega. It comes from the word ganega. Ganega is an animal skin. Now, most of the time when we see treated animal skins, they have this brown color to them. That's either because they've been smoked or they've been dyed. If you really work an animal skin, it's going to come out white. Because of the work and the scrubbing and the effort that you put into it, it takes the color out of it. And ganega was the color of that animal skin. And they used to talk about it. They said you're supposed to live a life that makes you clean, scrubbed clean. Adam nagaliska, cleaned up. They say you want to keep your heart, your body, your spirit clean and white. And they hold up a white belt. They used to hold up a white animal skin. They used to point at that animal skin. They said, Unega adam nagaliska, God nega gave son. This is white because it was cleaned up. It's an animal skin. It was made white through the effort it took to work that and turn it into something that could be used. They say that's how we're supposed to live our life. We're supposed to be mindful of our actions. We're supposed to be mindful of our words, mindful of our thoughts, and mindful of our feelings. We're not supposed to do things or say things that would hurt one another. We're supposed to be careful. They say that white path reaches out in front of us to follow, but we're supposed to live our life in such a way that we leave a white path behind us everywhere we go. Because no matter who you are, how old you are, there's always somebody watching, following in your footsteps. So this is a value system. The white path. Now the red path is the path of blood. Giga is the word blood in Cherokee. Giage means blood colored. That's the word red. Giage. So the red path is anything that justifies the spilling of blood. It's not the way that we live on a daily basis. We're supposed to follow that white path. So I guess if there was an opposite of white Cherokee, it would be red. But they're not really opposite, they're complementary. Because sometimes, in order to allow people to live on the white path, you have to defend that way of life. They say war is always wrong. The only thing worse than that is to watch innocents die. All right, communication styles. Both flow of conversation and nonverbal communication may be different. For many elders, yes is maybe, and maybe is no. That's how it is with Donnie, too. Also, no response is no, too. No is disrespectful to say to an elder. I've been at the complex several times, and somebody will be walking out of there and they'll say, I've never come here for help before. I've never asked the Cherokee Nation for anything. Not all my life. Never asked them for anything. But today I came in here and I asked them for one thing. They told me no, I'll never be back. That's what that word no means. Because to them, if they even wanted to help, they would have done everything they could to avoid that word. They would have said, I'll try, I'll do my best, maybe I can do it. Even if they don't think they can, they would have done their best to give them some hope. There will rarely be direct opposition. People don't like to argue. Of course, this is a stereotype. There are always exceptions. There are Cherokee people that will get in your face. There are likely few questions and no argument, open disagreement or resistance. Careful handshakes, front of eye contact, head nods such as polite agreement are important nonverbal cues to understand. The handshake I was taught growing up is a really firm handshake where you look in their eye and you shake their arm off. That's, even on my mom's side, they said, you look them in the eye and you give them a firm handshake. But when they did it, they didn't do it. They would do this one pump thing. And they'd walk up to them, they'd do this. They'd look at it for a second, do that. They wouldn't even look at it. So they were saying, Brian, do this, but they weren't doing it. There are certain things that are universal. Ideas of respect, ideas of kindness, ideas of giving, even that word love. It's a universal value. But how those things are communicated are different depending on what culture you're in. So in mainstream culture, you show respect with direct eye contact and a firm handshake. In Cherokee culture, that's confrontation. And it's kind of a challenge to teach people that. Also, this whole head nodding thing. Everybody will do that to you whether they agree with you or not. You walk up to them and say, did you know that the sky is purple? They'd say, okay. They'd think that person is nuts. But they're not going to tell them that because really it doesn't matter. Of course, when it's your own family, you jump all over them. But this is with strangers, or at least people you're not real close to. Teasing is used after close bonding or to test character. Teasing. I used to go to this doctor up in Salina, and he teased the crap out of me, and I hated him. And I would say, Donnie, will you call the clinic and get me an appointment? If it's Dr. Childers, I'm not coming in though. Get me a different doctor or I'm not going to go in there. And he was just trying to be nice, trying to break the ice. Because in mainstream culture, you tease. That's part of breaking the ice. In Cherokee culture, no. I mean, once you're close with each other, they will be awful. Just tease you about the worst things. And it doesn't even have to be something that's true. I mean, sometimes they'll tease you to correct you because they're telling you the truth, but they're doing it in a joking way. Sometimes they'll find out something that bothers you that's stupid, that shouldn't bother you, and they will tease you about it until it doesn't bother you anymore. Or they'll just find something about you that's different and tease you because they're funny. I mean, people tease, and they tease severely, but that's after they know you. If they tease you before they know you, a lot of times it's to correct you. And I'll see elders tease younger people in that way. But you never see young people tease elders. It's very different depending on what generation we're talking about. Social roles are predicated by generational differences. So you treat people different depending on their age. You don't tease elders if you're a younger person. You don't expect elders to come and visit you, you go and visit them. You don't expect elders to call you, you call them. The same difference that mainstream society gives to rich people, to PhDs, to doctors and movie stars is the sort of difference that we would have given to our elders. It's just that simple. Okay, personal sovereignty versus divine right of kings. You guys know what divine right of kings is, right? This is a European system. It popped up across the ocean over there. There was a king or a royal family. He said, the reason I'm the king is because God said so. And I'm telling you God said so, so you gotta listen to me. And I'm king, that means I own everything and everyone. Everything, everyone. He would build a really tall castle and build really tall towers, and he would put that tall tower on top of a hill. And he would climb to the top of the hill, to the top of the castle, to the top of the tower, and he would stand at the very top and he would look out and he'd say, everything I see, everyone I see, I own. He could take anything from anybody, including their life. That was sovereignty. That's where the word sovereign came from. The only thing that kept that king from taking over the world was a king across the way doing the same thing. They would send their warriors to come do battle with him, and everybody would die in the name of that king's sovereignty. Well, that became replaced by the power of the state. And it's a little better than it used to be. But it's still this top-down idea. It's not how our system used to work. I'd already mentioned that fire in the center of the community. They call that fire the heart of creation on earth. And the belief is that fire represents the sun. The sun is the heart of creation in the heavens. So the same fire in the sun is here on the earth, is the idea. That God gave us that sun to give us light, heat, and warmth. It's that sun that allows the plants to grow. The animals eat the plants, and we eat the animals, and we eat the plants. Everything in our communities came from the woods around us. We either harvested it from trees or plants or animals. Everything we had ultimately came from the relationship between the sun and the earth. And so the sun was considered the heart of creation on earth. The brightest thing in the sky, the most pure thing that we knew of in creation. And the fire represented it. And that fire was the heart of the community. You could pray anywhere you wanted, however you wanted to. But when we came around that fire as a community, we prayed with one heart and one mind, one purpose, to give thanks. All those songs and dances were thanksgiving prayers. And we're taught that as long as we give thanks for what we have, we'll always be provided with what we need. So we would go around that fire, be united, and that fire was the heart of the community. And they say the fire behind that sun was the same fire within our heart. So that fire lived there in town, it lived in the sky, and it lived in each and every one of us. There's an old chief, William Smith Jagesa. He used to walk around the ceremonial fire, and he'd say, there's nothing between this fire and the Creator. That smoke carries your prayers up. He said, if you don't believe me, come over here and stand over this fire. Nothing will get between that fire and the Creator. What would happen? You get burned up. I say that's how that fire is inside of us too. That if you're living right, if you are measuring yourself against your community members and your family, if you humble yourself before God, you always seek alignment and self-correction, then your conscience will be searing. That God will guide us through that fire that lives in each and every one of us. So our sovereignty is a gift that lives in each and every one of us. So if all the people in this community come to consensus, that's like the 7 clans coming to consensus around that fire. That community is a sovereign entity. So a long time ago, when our communities came together to create the Cherokee Republic, they did that as sovereign communities, and they created a sovereign nation. So it was from the ground up. Each individual came together Each clan came together and each community came together. And that's how we became the Cherokee Nation. It wasn't the top down. It wasn't a piece of paper. It wasn't some government scam. It's the people. That's how come the chief was there as a servant. If you're a sovereign person, then everything you do is your choice. You don't lose anything by helping somebody, by giving something to somebody. You don't lose anything. It's your choice. It's a gift. You don't give anything up. Nobody can make you do anything. It's your choice to allow it to happen. You're ultimately responsible for your choices and behavior. So that's one of those old teachings. That's the value of that fire. Now in Cherokee we say wadon. Now in North Carolina they say shkeen. Shkeen, when we say that in Oklahoma, it's short for shkeen, which means that's it. Shkeen. And my aunt Florence, she used to be on the phone and she'd say shkigeen, shkigeen. And sometimes she'd go shkidun. Shkigeen means really? And shkidun means yes, really. So shkidun means yes. Shkidun or ashki means yes, that's it. And chances are our ancestors didn't have a word for thank you. So in different communities, they had to come up with different ways. In the Overhills, where most people moved from there to Oklahoma, they had contact with Creeks. And as early as 1710, on an old Cherokee word list, we had the word thank you as wadon, which meant thank you, but it was probably taken from the Mobilian trade language, or maybe even Creek, because when they say thank you, they say madon, so it's closely related. But in North Carolina, they speak a different dialect. They call it Gadua dialect, and they say shkeen, which means that's it. So chances are we didn't have a word for thank you because we didn't need one. So we had to create an idea for that. We didn't have words for I'm sorry, we don't have words for please, we don't have words for excuse me, because we don't need them. If you don't have words to be nice, you can't be rude by choosing not to use them. So we do have a word now. So I'll say, well, no, thank you guys. I'll go ahead and answer questions, and then here in a little bit we'll do some friendship names. Go ahead and put your turtles on. Did you bring any? You dancing about it. She's got it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. It's not something that you covered here, and it might be something that you won't answer, cannot answer, but tell us about your hair tie.
Oh, my thing?
Your thing. Tell us about your thing.
Well, I need a haircut. A long time ago, they would pluck out all the hair except for the hair over the crown of their head. Donnie doesn't like it when it's short up here, so I let her alone here too. But a long time ago, they used to just have a top knot. And the idea is that part of your spirit rested under the crown of your head. It lived in your saliva and the breath of your life. And you didn't want to cut off all your hair, but when you were running through the woods as a hunter, as a warrior, you didn't want to have long braids to be caught in the trees, or even long flowing hair, because that would, you'd just be running along with whiplash. So they would just keep just the hair on the crown of their head, and they would use that to tie medicine to, or to tie their eagle feather to in times of ceremony. So it was a top knot that the young men and warriors had. Now the old men would let their hair grow long, but the young men would just have a top knot, and it was a warrior's hairdo. They used to pluck the hair out after we got razors. I'm sure it got a lot easier, but the idea is that the hair from the crown of your head has a piece of your spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Did we have Cherokee scalps? I forgot.
Did we have Cherokee? We certainly did after European contact.
Like
Mohawks, Cherokee strips, it's the same thing. Sometimes it was wider, sometimes it was narrower. As long as it covered where the soft spot here used to be and the soft spot back here, it could be thin, it could be wide. So a Mohawk was one of the traditional Cherokee haircuts, although we didn't stand it up with spikes and stuff and paint it blue. We did have it, and they would braid it sometimes, and And yeah, it was just a variation of the top knot or the scalp lock.
Did the Cherokee get that from the Mohawk?
Since we're
probably
cousins?
descendants of the Mohawk.
I think it's possible that we had done it for such a long time that we did it back when we were the same people.
What tribe, when did it stood like that? My ancestors
Used to do,
used to. Yeah, point.
oh, I don't know.
Never, ever see that?
I've never seen it. Back home, people point with their lips.
Yeah, oh, yeah, like that.
Yeah. With their foot, huh? But yeah, my uncle's done that. I never really thought about it though. But only when he sat down.
Down at, over Wagner,
Yeah. Hobart Wagner area, Lost City.
Woodall.
Woodall, okay. The Woodall family?
Yeah.
My grandmother used to say, you don't point your finger because that directs power.
Right, it's rude. People can think you're witching them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't point with your finger. Point with your lips. Don't point at a thunderstorm.
Your
It'll
chin.
strike you. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, my uncle points with his foot. I'll have to ask him. I never even thought about
My
it.
uncles used to do that. They were full of What about medicine using the butcher knife to part the clouds? You ever see that?
Yeah, my grandpa used to do that. He used to do that with an axe. There's lots of it. I brought some tobacco with me. Here's some, this is Nicotiana rustica, and it's used. There's some more Nicotiana rustica. They call it old tobacco, Jola Guyane.
Can
And,
I pass the back around?
well, I
I mean,
wouldn't
we don't
want
have to
people,
look at it, but I mean.
people
touch
can
it.
come up and look at it. And then this is just store-bought stuff. This
I'll have
is,
to have a sample for the KBL after.
well, yeah, this is Nicotiana tobacco. This is after European contact. They brought some varieties of tobacco up from Central America, and they become propagated, and it's commercial tobacco. But this old green stuff, it's really, it's potent, sometimes as much as 10 times the nicotine. And this is the old tobacco that we had maintained since we came up from South America.
Did it have additives, or was it
Just beer.
South American seeds that they brought with them?
Oh, originally this old stuff was South American seeds that we brought with us, and as time it's changed, and it's a different species than this stuff.
What did
which
they
is
use in the pipes?
Tobacco. Originally we used this, but this is hard to grow and it doesn't grow as big and it doesn't give you as big leaves or as much of a yield. But the stuff that was domesticated and planted all over Virginia, it had bigger leaves and created a bigger yield. So people still will grow this and they still use it. This is a modern version of it. I think this came from Kentucky, right? North Carolina.
Yes.
But these are just big tobacco leaves, untreated tobacco leaves, but this is a Nicotiana tobacco, so it's the same sort of stuff you have.
Did the Cherokees chew too, as long as concrete?
Well, the thing was, it was just supposed to be used for ceremonial purposes, so sometimes it was chewed and spit, like with their saliva. Sometimes it was smoked, but it was always for a purpose. As time has gone on, people have taken to using it recreationally, but when I talked to the old people, it was never used for pleasure a long time.
Never abused.
Never abused, because it was considered sacred. And this stuff, it's the same stuff that's turned into modern day chewing tobacco or cigarettes. But the green stuff, it would be hard to abuse because it's really nasty. It's nasty, and at some point you just don't want it anywhere near it.
I can't get any place close to tobacco.
Yeah, I don't enjoy it myself. Are there any other? Yes, sir.
Was there a word for throwaway?
Yeah, weeds do. But it just means to throw something away from me. It doesn't mean trash like the modern
To
word.
discard it.
Yeah. We don't have a word to discard. It's just describing the motion to throw something away from the one that's speaking.
Now, all the words that you covered today, are you going to give a list of them, or can you give a list of them?
I can. I'll have to put it on the page or send it via email or something.
Have you got this in a file?
Yeah, I can post the PDF on the Facebook page if you want.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you give us your site?
Yeah, they're in that. They're in the document. Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to stop the questioning, but before we do the friendship dance, we have some giveaways. We have a writer, Linda Rodriguez, and she has donated 3 books. And we have some other items that were donated last week. So whenever we're through with questions, before we get,
You want to do the giveaways
Maybe
and a bathroom break? Mara?
for everybody.
you can take your bathroom break on your own, at your pleasure, at your leisure.
I'm just saying it's been several.
Well, I just didn't want to forget. I just didn't want to forget.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, well, and also, there's Trader Joe's bread is part of the giveaway, so please take bread home.
It's right there on the floor behind the orange coolers on your way out.
And the question, I was just curious, when you were talking about bread, have you ever heard, not with all babies, but with some babies, if someone said that their head should, certain babies, their head shouldn't be touched at least till they're about a year, and they always cover it?
You know, what they used to do is even then when they would show how tall they were getting, they would never put their hand on their head. They would hold their hand out beside them and they would hold it palm up because they didn't want to make any motion that would stop their So it's, oh, you were about this tall. So that people don't do it now. It doesn't say you're never supposed to put your hand on their head. No.
You only get that when you're mad.
That's right. And that's like this. Yes, sir.
I got one more question. When I was tired since I was small, keep you alive, you could use so the Cherokee still practice that?
Lying, they would say that your integrity would be lost. There's this, in Cherokee, at the immersion school, little kids will play games and they'll say, I killed you, fall down, fall down. And then they'll go back into Cherokee. And, but they'll say things like that in English. And the teachers followed the kids around on the playground because they wanted to translate words that they were using in English so they could use them in Cherokee. But they would not translate that word. I killed you, fall down, you're dead. And the reason is because when you say those words, they have power. Even when you say them in English, they have power, but when you say them in Cherokee, they're medicine. So you'll also talk to people that won't say I'm sick. They won't say God and you. They'll say doggy away gun. They'll say I'm tired. You say, how come you don't say I'm sick? And they say, because as soon as I say that I'm sick, I'm giving in to it. So there's this idea that whatever you say becomes true. And when people lie, they mess with reality. It's like a form of witchcraft. So there's this value that says that if you don't speak words with integrity, then your prayers will have no power. So those people don't have any future. It's also really hard to lie in Cherokee because every verb is pretty complicated, and so when you stick them together, they all agree with each other. And when you're lying, you can't help but accidentally make a mistake in your statement. So your monologue becomes disjointed. So you make grammatical mistakes when you try to lie in Cherokee. It's pretty hard to do. You have to be a pretty good speaker.
So if our politicians spoke in Cherokee, they have to tell them.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yes, sir. Right, there's a storytelling tense that happens naturally for fluent speakers. They accidentally change the end of their words to mean that this supposedly happened because they weren't there to witness it. So there's a storytelling tense. And that's what happens when people really start telling fibs is at some point they start using that storytelling tense, so they're telling off on themselves. All right, we better do our giveaway.
Okay, under your seat, you should have, if you have a piece of masking tape, right here on the, Right here on your feet, see if you have it. Did you?
I do.
You do?
That's there.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
That's for Dawn.
Oh, okay. If we have the first 8 people to come over here, then we can do our.
Did you find one of yourself, George? No, the one here, this paper. I know it's sitting
Is it colder? I bet it's colder over there.
They created it. And on the first one, we also made them figure out the Yes. Oh, and that one's not out. That's an advanced reader's copy, so there may be typos in there. Yes.
And yes, I'm from Adair County. Tell your wife thank you.
Yes, see, this is, there's some, Cherokee City, this is actually